Hey everybody, welcome back. Psychedelic here. And tonight I am recording the long-awaited Ghostwriters theme, part 1. And I think I'll release maybe a couple more videos after this in sort of relation to the theme, because I obviously can't fill the entire gap of what this genre kind of covers. And basically the Ghostwriters theme kind of hit me because I picked up 2 LPs earlier this year that kind of inspired me to kind of go in that route. And I guess the only way to describe it is with different descriptors, like, these sort of idea of like the broken down post-Vietnam singer-songwriter from the US, seeing the whole ripple effect through the country with, the rise of hippies and sort of how that kind of tapered out once the 70s came about, and just living in a world of such chaotic turmoil, it seemed, from the political standpoint, the social injustice, and not just that, but sort of this whole idea of like the singer-songwriter sort of drifting through the country and trying to find his landing and write some original material, trying to put his own spark on different cultures throughout the land. And I'm just going to highlight maybe 6 LPs on this first round, because I got a little bit to talk about on these. But yeah, overall, it's going to kind of cover different subgenres like loner folk, acid folk, psych folk, whatever you would like to define those terms as. But it also kind of suits into, a little bit of like the cosmic country realm a little bit too, and your basic folky singer-songwriter. But I think these LPs in a way kind of encapsulate, they sort of create this whole world of like disillusionment. But at the same time, sometimes that twisted, messed up world can turn into beauty. And that's what I think these records do. They translate their trauma into art. That's one way I look at it. So I got my other phone here just in case I miss any notes, because sometimes I have a hard time, on the spot trying to think of these descriptors. But and I got 3 LPs at the very end I'm going to talk about that I don't own. Basically follow-up albums that kind of fit into this category, runner-up titles that I would recommend and that I don't own but would love to share the stories with you anyways. And also, by the time you're watching this, I may be in Kansas City area. I'm going to be kind of crate digging around there, and hopefully I can edit this and make it over the weekend, but if that's not the case, should be out by Memorial Day or the day after. So look forward to that. And with that said, let's dive into these. So yeah, some descriptors, I already mentioned some of them, like broken despair, sort of like the hitchhiking, kind of drifting singer-songwriter, carrying a acoustic guitar in his hand, sort of like a bygone era. There's like a lot of desperation into what they're putting out in their music and putting their heart and soul into it, and to this day could be considered lost media or just doesn't get enough attraction like it should. So with that said, I'm going to start off with this first one. This is what I would consider a new arrival. I picked this one up right before my return, and honestly, I hadn't really given this a full stream up until maybe early last year on one of my bike rides, and man, it was just transcendental listening to it on my bike ride. It was like the perfect day. It was like mid-afternoon, light breeze, sunshine, not too hot. It was perfect for this kind of music. And we're talking about F.J. McMahon, Spirit of the Golden Juice, and this is a reissue on Anthology label. I think this came out like it says 2020 here. I knew it was around there. Pretty recent. Fairly short LP. I think it only clocks in about a half hour. And there's actually an interview on YouTube that I watched, kind of getting this whole backstory from the man himself. I'll put a link of that in the description so you guys can check it out. I forget the name. I always forget the name of the channel, but he's always interviewing some of those obscure members from those obscure bands, kind of retelling their stories. But anyways, Spirit of the Golden Juice, what does that mean? It's basically, think of spirits, right? He loved to have his taste of whiskey back then, so he called it the Golden Juice. And this is a classic, man. This one really hits all the marks for me. Sister Brother opening it up on Black Knight Woman, 5-Year Kansas Blues, big highlight in the title track. There's really not a weak cut on here. A lot of people do point out the track Early Blue, and it's kind of funny, that's like the most different of all the tracks, and I say that because it's like the only little moment where there's like just a brief moment of like different instrumentation. There's like a kind of electric piano or something going on, but otherwise they stick to the same instrumentation throughout. All acoustic strung. Maybe there's some like electric guitar with a clean tone, but I don't think so. I think it's all just kind of acoustic driven. You got the same kind of percussion, kind of mid-tempo songs, some a little more on the down tempo. A lot of very simple guitar chords moving. Same kind of vocal approach as well. So with all that said, it kind of sounds all the same, but at the same time, they're all very individual tracks on their own and flow really well. And you could probably throw this in like the acid folk kind of realm. And so F.J. McMahon, his backstory, I'll kind of summarize it. He basically started out in a surf band like in the early 60s, like in the San Francisco, Berkeley area. And then he got drafted and he made it into the U.S. Air Force. As I recall, listening back from his interview, I think he had said that he had never got involved with any combat per se, but he did see a lot of victims on his way home post-Vietnam, and this was like, 1968, 69, around there, once he got the record deal. And he was playing around different coffee houses, and he got picked up by the Accent label, which is kind of a small micro label. The Human Zoo is also on that label. There's a lot of 45 singles on there, but yeah, the overall sound, the overall picture captures like, all of his emotions, what he felt during this time period, post-Vietnam War, and very lyrical on that topic as well. Trying to find hope through the weeds, it's just like he's just kind of really trying to grasp onto something and trying to find the purpose of his life, and it's just really what I'm all about, man. I love when artists really show a lot of their faith throughout all of their, basically confessions and testimonies through their songs. But yeah, there's a bit of a loner vibe too. Some are a little more on the light side, but some get a little more on the dark edge too. And I think there was one other thing I was going to say. It's got like a little bit of a lo-fi production. It's not the top shape production style, and I think that's really the unique thing about this, is that it's not really cleaned to please an audience. It's really kind of musty, kind of a dirty, dirt floor kind of production style, which I love, man. He's still around to this day, and he's learned of its cult status these days, and really love this short-lived LP. And yeah, this one's very obscure. It's very hard to find an original copy. I'll show the label real quick. Don't want to spend too much time on these, but thought I would share that one. Really glad to pick it up. I'm going to show a couple local things here now, and this is one that I found right at the beginning of COVID, actually, right before it all started downhill. And this is one I found in like a Grand Island thrift store, and I was like, should I really pick this up? I don't even know if it's going to be any good. Boy, I'm glad I did. I actually submitted this onto Discogs because I couldn't find a Discogs entry at first, and this is John Fred Houston. I'm going to feature him in the thumbnail. So yeah, again, this one kind of started me on a journey, kind of going down that loner folk rabbit hole, and this is a good one, man. Although there are a few cover variations, notably Neil Diamond. He does Sweet Caroline on here. You got songs like, let's see, well, Ghost Riders in the Sky, which is where I get the Ghost Riders theme from. If I didn't say that in the beginning, take it from this album. And I also think of it as though like Ghost Writers, Singer-Songwriters, Lost in Time. That was kind of the whole idea. It does Rocky Mountain High, Holly Holy, Louisiana Man. There's like a couple instrumental tracks as well, as I recall. But this is great, man. It's like clean tone electric guitar with some wah pedal. And it gets kind of spacey in some spots, but notably the Ghost Riders song, which I'll feature probably in the beginning or the end of the video here. Great stuff. Yeah, I threw at least like I think 2 or 3 tracks on my other page, Cosmic Minds. You'll probably be able to find them just searching John Fred Houston and give those tracks a sample. Those are some of the better tracks. And I really love like the coldness in the studio. It has a very cold kind of feel. Like on Sweet Caroline, you hear that spring reverb kind of shaking, shimmering like longer than it should in the mix. And I love those like accidental art touches, you know, whether it was deliberate or not. I don't think it was. John Fred Houston, I don't know his whole backstory, but to me, he comes off like a man who toured a lot, kind of gigged around like small Nebraska pubs, playing at different lounges and clubs in the area. And I get all the senses, all the different 6 senses where it's like you can smell the Marlboro cigarettes and Coors Light. You see the neon signs. It just really creates an image when you listen to it. Because I'd imagine he brought this on tour because it's actually signed on the back. And I think he was, if he wasn't from Nebraska, he definitely had connections here, because I found his obituary a long time ago and it mentioned his kids lived around the Lincoln area or something like that. But it says his booking agency is out of Tennessee, John Fred Houston Enterprise. And I think this is only LP. So, yeah, while traveling around the country, people kept asking if I had any records. Well, after much thought, I decided to cut one on my own label. And yeah, I have selected tunes that people have requested most in my nightclub show. So there you have it. Highly recommend this one. I don't think it'll ever be reissued, but again, kind of lost in time. And that's what this theme's kind of all about. You know, just trying to highlight some of the more forgotten artists. Some of the ghost riders in the sky. Love that version of that track. It's really good. So yeah, private label, Houston Records. Highly recommend it. And then moving on to this one. If you thought that last one was good, this one's even better, I think. And this is a local one. This guy's, I don't know anything about him virtually. I mean, I take it that he was a UNL student here in Lincoln. And this is Bruce Hiller, A Gentle Beginning. This is on the same label as that Heaven record, the WW label. I think those are the only 2 LPs on the label as far as I know. I think there might have been a single from Bruce Hiller as well, which I haven't heard, but it's on Discogs. I got lucky on this copy. I got this for $9 in the shop. Shop label here. Yeah, man. Every track on here, there's not a weak moment on this one for me. Opens up with Old Time Lover and Friend. They're all original tracks. Poet Cowboy, Mr. Eaton, Places I've Been, The Visitor. Those are the highlights, man. So Bruce Hiller, it's very much one person in the room kind of vibe, although there is bass guitar and sort of like a accompanying guitar on some tracks. And apparently he plays the 12-string guitar. George Bryan plays bass. I'm actually Facebook friends with him. I think he lives out in Omaha yet. And I messaged him about it, and I think I remember him saying he doesn't recall a whole lot of memories from the short time spent with them, but he just remembers backing him up and that he was a student at the time. Must have been kind of up there in his age, because he looks like kind of a middle-aged man from looking at these back photos. But yeah, someone uploaded the whole album onto YouTube, and just go right through the whole track listing. You will fall in love with this one if you love that sort of mellow, sort of longing, kind of yearning folk with kind of a desperation. There's a lot of like lost hope, but it's just beautiful the way it plays out too. Lyrically, it's very down to earth. And I would say also his voice has like the same tone as, say, like a Johnny Cash, kind of gritty, kind of sandy kind of voice delivery. Songs like Poet Cowboy really nail that as well. And I've uploaded a couple tracks onto the music channel of mine as well. So yeah, they're kind of floating out there a little bit. It's kind of hard to find in good shape, it sounds like. Get one more shot of the label here. WW. So, yeah, Bruce Hiller. If I had to recommend any out of these. I mean, obviously they're all big favorites of mine, but yeah, Bruce Hiller, I feel like doesn't get any respect around these parts. So, A Gentle Beginning. I think that came out in like 69 or 70. And this one's also a new arrival I picked up early this year. I did not get the heads up from the shop about this one, so it was kind of a nice surprise finding this in the new arrival bin. Definitely the missing link out of the whole series from this man. This is the Dean Davis Company with Stone County Road. I believe this is maybe the third LP of his series he had going on. I have the Winterwood LP that came out some years later after this one, and then second time around by the Dean Davis Company. But this is like the missing link between those two. And then I'm still missing the one called Maria, which is just under Dean Davis. It's kind of more of a simple kind of strumming kind of folk LP. As you can tell, it's got some water damage, but it doesn't affect the LP too bad. It looks a little rough, but for the price I got this for, I'm not going to complain. Because there's been times in the past where I've almost had the opportunity to pick this up for, say, $50, but kind of glad I waited. Got it half the price of that. So Stone County Road, that's actually a track written by the folky John Stewart, who did the LP with Buffy Ford, which we'll highlight later on in the series, I think. I'm going to open up the video with just a clip of their track Dark Prairie. It's one of my favorite tracks. But anyways, on to this Dean Davis Company. He was based out of the Colorado area, and they kind of traveled across the country, I think, you know, kind of spreading love, spreading the word all around the globe. Don't know how they had the money for it, but they got funded somehow. I think they all started out as a sort of a college gathering, just a gathering of different artists, and found each other. And I think he would later also relocate to Kearney, Nebraska, because then that's where Winterwood came in. He had relocated with his future wife. And they do some cover songs besides Pirates of Stone County Road. They do White Rabbit, California Dreamin', decent versions. The thing I like about this one, though, is that they incorporate some of that kind of hazy Vox organ kind of sound. It's very subtle in the mix, but man, it just makes it a lot more some trippier elements. But again, it kind of sticks to that sort of lost in the countryside, like trying to find the meaning of life, and very just ethereal in that kind of world. Yeah, it says here on the back they traveled to Japan, Korea, the Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand. Yeah, so they've really had their rounds for a short time locally. So yeah, I can highly recommend this one. I definitely would recommend Pirates of Stone County Road, and the rest just kind of falls into place. It's kind of got this kind of moodiness to it, and I think it's their best. I think it's their best work. I think it's on the Etc. label. Yeah. So yeah, you see this one kind of around the U.S. a little bit, but it took me a long time to find a copy. Okay, we got two more here, and this is one that obviously it's a big one in the collection for sure. Bill Stone with his album Stone here. This is one I got sort of around the same time Galactic Zoo Dossier through Drag City released this. I'm actually the one that found him through Facebook. He was kind of a enigma for a while, and I was really glad I tracked him down one time because it's just like the music was so good. It's like, what happened to this man? So yeah, it just got released, and I think the reissue is still pretty cheap to pick up on. Supposedly there were 100 copies sold, but you do see this floating around a little more than, say, just 100 copies. And I think some came without the cover. I think they were just selling it just because they pressed a few more after the sleeve was made. But as you can tell, just looking at this man, does that look like the face of a sad bastard? I don't really mean that, but in all seriousness, it just really captures the mood and the subtleties throughout this thing. You got a track like Purple, Visions on Sherman Street, Charlottetown. That's the big highlight there. It kind of takes you down this kind of spoken word, Sort of like this tragedy is happening with all this kind of bizarre, visceral imagery in the lyrics. And then once the chorus pops in, you hear this like waves of feedback happening with this guitar, and it's almost like just an unnatural sound, just an unnatural tone to it, which obviously makes it psychedelic in its own way. But the track Purple is what is the big highlight from here that I can recommend. So yeah, if you see this one out there, pick it up. I'm really very fortunate to own this copy here on Omni. So yeah, I don't play it like I used to. I'm just so, it's just in my DNA at this point. But when I love to show this one to friends and sharing it with you all. And yeah, when the moment's right, this one gets spun pretty often. And then finally, kind of shooting off with a pretty well-known one that everybody knows. And you can sort of classify this one in the acid casualty section. I'm talking about Skip Spence. My shop did have an original copy one time, not too long ago, but I don't know, man. It was a little on the rough side. Pretty good, decent price. But I'm pretty satisfied with the Sundazed reissue when I found it. I mean, I do love this record, and I've actually gotten a lot more appreciation out of this now that my bandmate, Nastor Yacht, really has gotten turned on to this one as much as I have. And we really vibe on this one. We actually started playing, we were playing the track War and Peace at his house one time, and he was playing the 12-string along with that. It was just glorious. Just a glorious, blissful sound. So loose, so just a lot of humility and humanity pouring out in this, and mental illness as well, and just nothing else like it, man. And even though it doesn't really, you couldn't really say maybe it fits with the rest of the LPs that I shared, but it still kind of fits in that same world of sort of like what the destruction of bad drugs and the people you trust in the 60s, you know, it's kind of like the more destructive side of drugs and what that has to offer. And I think this one certainly slides into that kind of realm. So, or Alexander Spence. Yeah, well, what more can you say, man? Cripple Creek. Dang. Anyways, yeah, I wanted to share those 3 runner-up titles that I don't own and would probably like to own sometime down the road. Maybe not the first one. I got to kind of warm up to it yet. And we're talking about the album Bob Desper. Well, the artist Bob Desper with his album New Sounds that came out in '74. And one of the highlight tracks I marked down is Darkness is Like a Shadow. What a way to kick the album off. To me, it always kind of hit me off as like the desperate everyman. And it's a little more like it's kind of based around Christianity a little bit. You know, there's a lot of those hints towards that happening in there. Trying to find oneself. And the next one here, Perry Leopold, Experiment in Metaphysics, which came out in 1970. I think it was a private label, right? I think so. I marked down on here, side 2 is labeled as Acid Folk. Other side is labeled Commercial with a K. And I said, music portrays self-discovery, self-exploration. It's pretty lo-fi in nature, introspective, you know, very much reflecting on the past, even though it was like a lot of hardship, a lot of hard times, and trying to recover from that. At least that's the kind of idea behind it. And then I just threw in the highlight track, The Absurd Paranoid, which I think is the first track, right? I think so. And then the last one here, Philip Lewin, Am I Really Here All Alone? From 1975. That was his first album. I'm not as familiar with that as much as the next one, which is a little more in like a loungy kind of jazz fusion kind of way. Diamond Love and Other Realities. I think it's got some folky moves as well on there. It's kind of a switch up, really. And I put here delayed watery vocals, especially on the track Watercolors. Man, that one's just really just oozing psych folk right there. I mean, it sounds like it's kind of recorded in this kind of like cabin at nocturnal hours. And then some highlight tracks, Sweet Georgia's Got to Be Home, Tonight was a big highlight, and that track kind of reminds me of like where Sixto Rodriguez kind of style. Kind of reminds me of if that were a song that he would have wrote. Kind of reminds me of him. It's got a nice groove to it, backward reverb, and kind of bluesy. So it's a little bit of a mix up compared to the other tracks. Yeah, so hopefully I covered everything okay and kind of fine-tuned it well enough. You kind of get the idea. Talking about some U.S. singer-songwriters that pay their dues. They kind of deserve more attention, and I'm here to kind of share my thoughts about them. And it's some of the stuff I love, but I gotta have to kind of be in the mood for it. And just before I started my comeback video, I was really at the height of it, and I'm just kind of like dwindling down. But hey, maybe it's bringing me back right into it. So yeah, stick around for part 2 and part 3. Try to make it a series here, and this is basically the peak stuff I wanted to talk about with the additions to the collection, the Dean Davis and the F.J. McMahon. Definitely makes me want to go out to Wyoming and live out on the homestead where everything feels lawless and you can just breathe in the clean air. You don't have to worry about the city pollution and all the things that make us crazy. Anyways, I'm just being silly. Take care. Let me know what you think of these, and we'll see you soon.